So, some of the events, meetings, engagements that have happened since our last report. Of course, we had the Little NHL. I attended the opening ceremonies in Mississauga on March 12th and was glad to be there along with the Lieutenant Governor, Elizabeth Dowdeswell. It was just amazing to see the Hershey Center packed with so many kids and parents, and I hear it was one of the finest and biggest events in the area. On March 13th to 16th, I was in Las Vegas with members of the Development Corporation to attend what is called the RES 2017. It's one of the premier economic development conferences that is held in the United States. And it's a good place to do networking, make connections, and to pick up more information on how to proceed with our own economic development projects here. On the 21st of March, Councillor Ray Miracle and Jan Burning and I traveled to the Queenston Bridge at Lewiston and met with the Canada Border Services Agency. We wanted to start establishing a relationship with them so that, and our people can better understand why they are sometimes asked questions or even searched at the border when they're coming back into Canada. So we're going to continue to work with them. We're going to develop a pamphlet of frequently asked questions and answers, and they've also agreed to come to our community to attend either a community meeting or smaller meetings or even go on the radio and ask questions. They also agreed and asked us if we could provide someone to do cultural training for the border service guards. So once that they are in the community and we have dates for that, we'll let everyone know. On the 22nd and 23rd of March, I attended the AFN Energy Conference in Ottawa along with Councillors Terry General, Ray Miracle, and Carl Hill. And I stayed over on the 24th for a Political Confederacy Chiefs of Ontario meeting that was also held in Ottawa. Because I had to stay in Ottawa, I missed the Gawaneo Gala that was held on the 24th, which I understand was very successful. And also I missed Cultural Days at Assumption College, which I understand was also very successful. And I want to thank Laurie Sky for organizing that. And since I missed it, I have made a commitment that I will get back up to Assumption with the kids on another event. On March 25th, there was an event at Woodland Cultural Centre called Voices. Last year, you may recall, there was a group of 6, which are 6 young people who did some artwork and working with Elizabeth Dockstader there in the plaza, and they had a little art show during community awareness last week, and they sold their artwork. Well, they presented this show called Voices, and then they got up and told stories. But there were only 4 of them, but I just really commend them. I thought they were wonderful stories, and for those kids to have the courage to stand up in front of that crowd and tell their stories was really commendable. They're also getting back together as the group of 6 and painting and artists, and they'll be having another showcase and a sale during Community Awareness Week in the plaza in front of Elizabeth Dockstader's Cornhusk doll store. On March 28th, 29th, and 30th, Six Nations was hosting, in conjunction with the Chiefs of Ontario, the second family gathering related to missing and murdered Indigenous women. It was well attended by families from around the province, and we did have one of the commissioners here from the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women Inquiry that is going to be taking place. During that week, I also had the opportunity to head to Brantford and have lunch with the students at the Aboriginal House on the Wilfrid Laurier campus. On April 3rd, Councillors Hazel Johnson, Melba Thomas, Artist Sky, and myself, along with Sarah Jane from Little Treasures, were in Toronto to meet with the minister responsible for early learning or childcare centres, and that minister is Indira Naidu-Harris. Our message to her was that we don't have enough spaces here for childcare, and that we need more money so that we can purchase some additional spaces. So it was a very good meeting. I think she was very understanding and compassionate, and we'll continue to work with her in following up. On April 4th, Councillor Terry General and myself, and along with Mike Montour, Director of Public Works, attended a Chiefs Water Symposium that was held out by the Toronto Airport. And it was to talk about how to get rid of the boil water advisories, but we also brought up the need to get funding for piping from our water treatment plant to every house in the community, and also the O&M costs that are necessary to operate the water treatment plant. Later that evening, I traveled to Ottawa to attend the CanWIA Awards. CanWIA is the Canadian Wind Energy Association. We are partners with 2 powerhouses in the energy area, and that is Boralex and Enercon. And the three of us are partners in the Niagara Region Wind Farm. And we were nominated as Wind Energy of the Project for one of the awards. There were 3 nominees, but unfortunately we didn't win. But we were happy to be one of the 3 finalists and the nominees, and we were also happy to come together and celebrate our partnership. And on the following evening, we celebrated another partnership between Mohawk College and Six Nations Polytech. That was held at Leuna Station in Hamilton, and it was a wonderful, wonderful dinner. And I was called in to be the keynote speaker, so it turned out to be a fine evening with over 300 people there. On April 6th, Arla Skye, our Director of Social Services, and I traveled to Queen's Park in Toronto to make a presentation to the Standing Committee on the Child Care Act. That act is being amended, and we informed them of some of the changes we'd like to see in that act. On April 6th, Dallas Squire, who is our NAIG steering committee organizer, organized a community update, and we had Marcia Trudeau, who is the NAIG CEO, and Nicole Clark, one of the sports managers, here to provide an update. The Six Nations Fire and Emergency Services also held their first graduating class. They are holding training sessions at the Old Blue Building at the landfill site. And their first class included many First Nations citizens from a variety of First Nations in Northern Ontario. And they were here for 5 weeks training, and they graduated, and there was a fine ceremony to honor them and to acknowledge their graduation. And of course, then we had the community meeting on drug abuse. And on April 10th, the Attorney General, Yasser Nafki, was here. He had earlier been at the St. Leonard Society in Brantford announcing a bail program, and then he visited our community and talked to us about different areas in justice. We also talked to him about maybe possibly getting a victim services office here and eventually a sexual assault center. On April 11th, I attended my first meeting with some Ontario cabinet ministers. I have been appointed as the Chiefs of Ontario's representative and special advisor to the Minister Chris Ballard and the Cabinet Committee on Poverty Reduction and Social Inclusion. So I attended my first meeting of that on April